And we're live. Opening line, brought to you by EliteSportsBetting.com. If you are watching on Periscope and you'd like the audio version, you can also watch on YouTube. We're live there on the Elite Sports Network handle, as well as Twitch, Elite Betting. I believe on YouTube, for those who want audio only, you can sort of bring the video up and then, click your phone off. And you should be able to just listen to us instead of looking at our ugly mugs. I'm here with Dream. We'll be talking you through all 6 games I think on the slate, get you out of here in 15 or 20 minutes. We do have a few plays though for each of us, so hopefully we make some money today. Dream, how was your weekend?
Man, it was okay. I had a rough Saturday. It was looking like a losing night anyway, and then you get 2 blown saves and you kind of turns into a disaster. So wasn't won a unit yesterday or a little less, so hopefully bounce back today.
Yeah, I think so. I like this slate a lot. I'm curious your feelings on it, but let's just jump into the games here. We'll start with Milwaukee at Arizona. Brett Anderson going on the mound for Merrill Kelly, a couple of pitchers who have been pretty terrible to date so far. Something to note in this game, it is in Arizona, which is a little bit of a boom box with 2 bad pitchers on the mound. Total 9.5. Arizona small dog here to Brett Anderson, who so far on the season has an ERA of 4.24, but an expected ERA of 7.16, which, believe it or not, came down after his last start against Cincinnati, where he had something like 9 strikeouts and 1 hit and 1 walk or something like that given up. Merrill Kelly, not so fortunate in his last, over the course of the season so far. Not equally as bad, but hasn't had the season that I think a lot of people expected from Merrill Kelly coming in after a few decent years here. So anything you like here, Dream?
I mean, honestly, I felt like I was backing Merrill Kelly, maybe not on the side, but first 5 unders for quite a bit, and they were doing okay. He would just get like kind of 3 through 5 innings, and that would be that. Man, this is an ugly one. And, the Diamondbacks hit lefties well, maybe not quite as well as they were a couple weeks ago, but if anything, it's like Diamondbacks team total here, and I don't really know if I want to get involved with either of those 2 bets.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think if you're playing anything, even though the Diamondbacks have been, downright horrible, the worst record in Major League Baseball, there's always sort of like value in these like bad losing streaks and bad runs, especially from a team like the Diamondbacks, who I don't think anyone would have thought they were the worst team, right? Like, I don't think we would have anticipated that. I think they fully embraced it now. Like, okay, we get the number 1 pick and we probably don't have a chance this year anyway. And in that division, good luck, regardless, getting through there. They need to wait for these other teams. If they ever do, money fixes a lot of things, but if they ever do hit the skids, maybe they have a chance in a few years here. That being said, I did play some over 9.5 here at about even money. Like I said, 2 kind of just awful pitchers going in a stadium that's, like a mini Coors. It has been a little bit less so, I would say, more recently. But again, Brett Anderson, I think, is sort of creating this number where, they're somewhere around, minus 115, minus 120 in the market. And I don't think they deserve to be, right? Like, I do think Arizona is going to score some runs here. I think they'll both score some runs. Hopefully Arizona leads in this game, because I don't want that good Milwaukee bullpen with Devin Williams and Josh Hader. That being said, there's about a coin flip chance in that. And I think, both these pitchers are going to give up some runs here.
What did you make, Frank?
What's that?
What did you make this number?
10, a little over 10.
Okay.
So 9.5 plus money, something like 10.2. Runs, I think, given up. Like you said, Arizona, a lot of runs there. We know it's going to be hot and humid. I know it's indoors generally, but, it's a big outfield, right? Like, these guys give up fly balls and hard hits. So we'll see what happens there. Next one, best game, best series, I think, going in baseball when we get these 2 teams going up against each other. I think we've had 2 prior series that were extremely exciting, right? A lot of extra inning games, I think, in there. Dodgers at Padres, Julio Urias going for the Dodgers, Yu Darvish going for the Pods, sitting out there around minus 124, minus 125 there for San Diego as of a few minutes ago, and a total of just 7. 2 good offenses, but again, very good pitchers here going up against one another.
Hey, when was the last time the Dodgers were underdogs? I feel like we maybe should have looked that up before we hopped on, but I feel like it's been a long time.
Probably since the last time they played the Padres. maybe even not so. I think Darvish went. I bet Darvish against maybe Kershaw, I think, as a small dog on the road.
Money on those.
Yeah, on the road, I believe. I don't quite remember. But it was, I don't really remember the last time the Dodgers were underdogs.
Yeah,
I would have to look it up.
I did check back on those 2 starts that Darvish made against the Dodgers, though, and he didn't allow a single barrel. I'm pretty close to the Padres here, lean first 5 under as well. I just don't know if I'll get there. I know the Dodgers rested a few people yesterday. If you looked at that, 5 through 9, their lineup looked like a spring training lineup. Like I didn't recognize a few of those names, which is kind of weird. Don't really expect that from the Dodgers, but both of these teams are kind of preparing for this series like they did last time, and we're probably going to see some fantastic baseball.
Yeah, I made this about 7.2 runs. The number had gone up from 6.5, juiced way to the over, to a little bit of 7, juiced a little bit to the over. It has been hot and humid, pretty much across the United States the last few weeks. Not surprised to see a little bit of over movement. I did make this game about 150, so I'm fully prepared to play the Padres here. I do like Darvish a lot. I think you're getting the better pitcher. I think you're getting very comparable teams, right? Like, I don't think these teams are that different. Right. And now we're getting, a home team, and we're starting to see some home field advantage so far this season, about 4.5% last I checked, 4 home teams in Major League Baseball this season, which is pretty significant. Yeah, it's pretty significant.
You think that'll increase now with, fan attendance getting larger?
There was almost no home field advantage last year. This year, there's 4.5%. At the beginning of the season, there wasn't. As fans have gone in, it's almost been like an exponential increase. And I don't take players' words for granted, but I've heard a lot of players say, I went to the Padres game on Friday. That place was electric. Like, it was the loudest it's ever been there, and it was only half capacity, right? Like, at least since those teams were good. Like, it's the loudest it's been there in 3 years of any game that I've gone to.
Right.
And the players mentioned it after the game, like, wow, this felt like a packed house. And I said, I think it's only 50% capacity and up until July 1st, so they're going to go full capacity. But the players have said this, so that, they feel like they're getting a big energy boost from the game. So that being said, I do like the Pods here. Just Tatis is questionable, so I don't know how to handle that. I don't know if he's going to play. Obviously, if he plays, one of the best players in Major League Baseball coming out of that lineup is going to create, which is probably going to remove my edge. I think this number sort of indicates that he's not going to play, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So all holds here on the Padres for me, but if he were in, I think anything around 130 is playable in my opinion. So on to the next one, game you like. I'm going to stay away from this game. I don't know enough about Keegan Aiken, and I certainly don't have enough sample to make a judgment on him in this game. Your cup got the green screen. That's hilarious. All right. Keegan Aiken, Odorizzi going for Houston, lefty on the mound for Baltimore. This is your team and a game that you like, so I'll give you the floor here.
Yeah, I asked you if you thought this number was a little short. You told me that you had it pretty much close to fair value. Listen, Aiken's just kind of a guy. I don't really expect him to do that well. I feel like best case scenario here, even he'll just go 4 or 5 and allow 3 maybe, and then we'll get to the Orioles bullpen. He's kind of struggled versus righties so far this year. He has a 4.77 FIP, 5.27 xFIP, and we know that the Astros absolutely crush lefties. Best team in the league, 126 runs created plus. They just spent the weekend beating up on the White Sox, and now they come to a hitting-friendly Camden Yards. Odorizzi makes me maybe a little nervous, but the fact that, I don't expect him to go that long, maybe 5 innings, but I mentioned it on Friday with Austin. The Astros have a bunch of fucking arms in the pen now. They moved Javier out of the rotation, so I don't think he's pitched since last Wednesday. So if Odorizzi only goes 4 or 5, you can expect Christian Javier to pick up the slack and go 3 or 4 himself, lead you right to the back end of that bullpen. So I don't know. I played the Astros here and Astros team total. Maybe you can wait for a little bit of a better number on the Astros money line. I don't think you'll get much better on as far as the juice goes on the team total. I like the Astros here.
Yeah, and if you look at Odorizzi's last 4 starts, not many walks, not a ton of strikeouts, but 3 earned or less in those 4 or last 5 starts coming in here. So, you have to feel good, I think, with this Astros lineup against a bad lefty in Keegan Aiken. If he gives up 3 runs, right? Like if he goes 5 and gives up 3, you probably feel pretty good about that, right? Like there's a good chance the Astros are getting more than that, right? Or 4 or 5 runs here. Like you said, best team in baseball against lefties. And it's not a coincidence, right? That's not a lot of these lefty stats can be sort of low sample and random, sort of issues going on there. but the Astros have a lot of really good big right-handed bats that can crush lefties. So it's not that surprising to see.
Almost a 1,100 plate appearance sample. Like, it's the largest sample I think of the game, and they are without Bregman. But dude, Correa has been absolutely lights out. He's going to get paid, and I'm happy for him. I said this on Friday, but I hope he just puts him in the 2 spot. I don't know why he keeps hitting him like 6th or 7th, but I mean, whatever.
I'm sure they'll get around to it. It doesn't lineup position doesn't matter that much, but at the end of games is where you sort of see it come out, where they turn the lineup over and you're looking at Correa or someone like that sitting on deck, and you're like, what the hell, he could be hitting right now. That being said, Dream on Houston and the team total over 5.5. Good game here as well. Oakland at Texas. Texas kind of disappointing, I think, so far this season, although Kyle Gibson on the mound for them today, who has not been disappointing so far this season, one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball, and I think probably the biggest surprise in Major League Baseball, the biggest hidden gem here. Still comes in as a small dog, sitting around 110, 111, 115, somewhere there in the market. Over under about 8.5, juiced to the under. I made this game about 7.9. I made Oakland about -116. I was a little surprised by that. I've been pretty high on Kyle Gibson, but I think the Texas lineup and their struggles, the Texas bullpen and their struggles has sort of, evened out. I think the pitching edge in this game. Montas has been better lately, but I don't think either of us would say he's better than Gibson, right?
No, it's funny because I've been kind of waiting for Gibson to break out, I feel like, forever, and you thought it was never going to happen. And I think he added a cutter this year that's actually working out pretty well for him.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was a little surprised when I looked at this line. You mentioned that Montas has been better lately, and he's pretty much flirted with a quality start. I think his last 4 starts or something like that. So he's going 5 or 6 and not allowing very many runs. I was close here. I think I'll probably add it at some point. I might wait for the umpiring assignments, but I like the first 5 under here. I assume the roof will be closed, and I don't know, hopefully Montas will be able to shut down the Oakland offense, at least for the first few innings. When you look at the Oakland offense, man, I couldn't believe when I checked out Matt Olson's stats. Have you looked at his slash for the season? I knew he was having a good year. I didn't realize he was slugging 600. So he's absolutely mashing. Someone, Gibson will probably be pretty careful with, because he's easily their toughest out in that lineup right now.
Yeah, and I fully expect Matt Olson to rake, right? But the guys like Mark Canha hitting 137 WRC plus, Roman Loreno hitting 130, even Sean Murphy 109. Matt Chapman's turned it on lately. He's actually above average now, and he was sitting in like the 80 WRC plus area. Tony Kemp has a 140 WRC plus, and I know he's more of a platoon player, but Christ, 140 WRC plus, that's out of control.
He went yard a couple times in Yankee Stadium, and maybe one of them was a cheapie to right, but the other one he got absolutely all of it. And you mentioned Chapman. We've talked about him a lot. We mentioned how the A's are pretty well aware of his injury, and they had him batting 7th. We've seen him, I think, as high as 5th the last few days, so he must be feeling better, and his hips must be healthier, and he's starting to hit much better now.
Yeah, so they have a lot of people in this lineup that can hit pretty much anyone, and Kyle Gibson's included in that. But I do want to mention 2.09 ERA for Kyle Gibson so far this year. Like you said, added a cutter to battle lefties, and he's throwing it a lot and throwing straight fastballs a lot less, which has helped him. 3.11 expected, so a little bit regression, but still very good, right? I think if he pitches to a 3.11 or 3.30 ERA for the rest of the year, I think Texas would be pretty happy to move him at some point.
That's kind of what I wanted to ask you. I think expected ERA, like you mentioned, is a little over 3. I want to say Sierra and FIP are kind of in the 4s, though. So where do you kind of see him, I guess, regressing or ending up?
Yeah, FIP 336. The thing to look at him is he's below average in strikeouts. He's also slightly below average in walks, but I don't think the walks are low enough to sort of justify 2.09 ERA, right? Like if he was walking 2% of hitters and striking out 20%, then fine. But I will say 4% barrels. It's very good. He's typically a guy over the course of his career that never really got hit very hard. 5% barrels for the course of his career, at least for what we have data for. 36% hard hit rate over his career. So it's been more of an issue with him of missing bats and staying in the zone. And the only difference between this Kyle Gibson and Kyle Gibson from his 4.40 ERA career is that he's added a little bit more strikeouts and he's taken away a little bit more walks. Yeah. And that just goes a long way. And especially when you're not giving up home runs to lefties, you look at the home run rate over the last, 5 years, he was over a home run per 9. Earlier on in his career, he was below 1 home run per 9. Now this year he's at 0.58. Now, is that the ball? Yeah, the ball's going to help, right, compared to the last couple of years. but he's also just limiting power by throwing a cutter instead of a straight fastball. That'll certainly add, some weak contact in there for a guy that's already added a ton of weak contact throughout his career.
Yeah.
So
lefties only have a 245 WOBA. And I know we talked about it over text over the weekend. What do you think about, I guess, the lack of the sticky stuff and increasing fly ball distance? I know partially it is due to the weather, but they said only about like 1.5 feet is due to the weather. I know it's not a large sample yet, but are you seeing anything differently?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really looked much into it. Okay. I will say that, the weather certainly helped, right? Now, everything is different. Everywhere is different. And I think there needs to be individual cases that are evaluated. But I think an underrated part of the spin rate stuff is that when you have higher spin rates, you're throwing a round ball to a round bat, you would have to assume that bat and ball interact very differently. Like, it's much easier to square a ball up with spin or without spin than it is with spin. We've seen knuckleballers, sure, they get a ton of, dinky contact and things like that. But when guys square them up, they tend to get hit very hard, right? Because the ball isn't spinning. And I would imagine as the ball spins and hits a round bat, that it has some sort of deflection off of that bat that will make it, spin upwards or downwards depending on where it's moving. So if you reduce that, you're going to reduce that deflection, right? Which will lead to harder hits, I would assume. Not to mention that if there is a ton of pine tar on a ball, it's not exactly going to fly as far as one that doesn't have anything on it, right? Like, so, we see this in like golf, for example, when a guy hits a ball and sometimes some mud will be on the ball on one side of the ball, and it'll make the ball spin ridiculous amounts, to one side or short or left or right or whatever. And it really takes distance off of it because it adds a ton of spin because of the wind resistance. Well, you don't need much to affect a ball, especially a baseball, a couple feet, right? So that could be part of it too. I don't know. I once saw Yadier Molina block a pitch and it's stuck to his chest protector. So there might be a lot more pine tar in these balls than what we're realizing. Or
let me ask you, how many people would you expect? So they're going to start enforcing the rule today. How many people would you expect to maybe get suspended or ejected this week?
Not many. I don't know how the umpires make that call though. They should be sending the balls back to the lab and say, hey, this is Kyle Gibson's ball, and send it back to the lab and then evaluate it from there. Because do you really trust Joe West to make his best judgment on whether that's sunblock or rosin? Because I don't.
I feel like they're going to be rubbing these dudes down, like grabbing their belt buckles and their backsides, the back of their, it's going to be a little awkward. It's like a security, essentially. They're just.
I don't know. I don't know how the umpires shouldn't be the ones enforcing it, because it's way too of a insane situation to do that. And
or suspended.
I think most pitchers aren't going to risk it anyway.
Right.
I really don't, especially a lot of the guys that got paid, like Bauer and Cole and these guys. Like, what are they? Right. What's the point? They already got their career contracts, like, and they're still going to be decent without it. So whatever. Okay, moving on. Next last game here, Cleveland at Chicago. Aaron Savali on the mound for Cleveland, Adbert Alzolay for Chicago. Wind blowing in at Wrigley, in case you're wondering why this total is only 7, somewhere in the 12 to 15 mile per hour range for the average wind in Chicago today. So, as a stadium that is affected by wind more than anywhere else, that total is going to be substantially lower, I think, than what you would expect. I made this game about 7.7 on average. So that wind playing a little bit of a factor here. I generally won't play Cubs totals anyway. I did have a little bit of a lean towards Cleveland, but like this Padres game, Jose Ramirez was hit on the ankle in Pittsburgh on Friday night. He may not play, questionable for this game. He kind of limped and walked off the field in that game. They usually don't stay out for ankle contusions, but I can imagine he's probably pretty sore getting hit right on the back leg there when he was hitting. So I'm going to avoid this game. I made this about 117 if J-Ram was in. If he's out, that number is obviously going to change to about what it is now. So I think this number is indicating that he isn't going to play, but if he were to go in, I would expect it to move down.
Well, I'm glad he was healthy enough to hit that home run against the Pirates yesterday and hand me the loss. But I completely agree with you. I guess that's where I'm seeing value on the Indians here is without Ramirez. And that's really a tough team to back. I think their best hitter would then be Cesar Hernandez, maybe. So, no Ramirez, and I'll probably end up staying away from this one.
Yeah, and Alzolay's been solid. 4.06 ERA, 4.20 expected ERA. I think that's about where he's going to end up. 10% barrels. So when he does get in the zone, he does get hit decently hard, when he does get in there. But 26% K, 7% walks. I think he's quite a bit better than most people would have expected. I'm sure the Cubs are very pleased by him. He has very good stuff and could improve going forward. Savali probably looking a little bit of regression here going forward. 3.48 ERA, 4.38 expected, and the FIP is right there again at 4.37. So I do think that there will be a little bit of regression for him. He is a control guy, very low walk guy, and the Indians tend to do this. They tend to get a little bit more out of pitchers like Aaron Savali, and then eventually flip them for good prospects and kind of start to cycle over. Moving on, Cincinnati at Minnesota, a game both of us like, I think for obvious reasons. Cincinnati, the small road favorite here. Tyler Mahle going on the mound, who I would say has been their best pitcher by a good margin, who has been one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. I would say that, like Kyle Gibson, he's a surprise, but I think we all expected him to be very good eventually, right? So it's a little bit less surprising to me. We've watched him pitch, and we've said for like 3 years, like, this guy's got nasty stuff. He could be very good if he could get the walks down, and voila. He's walked like 2 or less in 6 or 7 straight starts. And here we go with Tyler Mahle, who's had a very quality season so far.
Yeah, strikeouts minus walks at 22%. He also has the ground ball going. He's still getting 42% there. I know that we can't see too big of a road favorite here at the Twins, but this was pretty easy. Like, I was a little surprised, I guess, when I looked at this, and I just locked in Reds minus 16 or minus 117, something like that.
Yep.
I mean, Hap's been absolutely horrible this year. I don't really know how he's still in the rotation. I feel like we say this every time he's listed, but 5.39 FIP versus righties, 5.71 xFIP. That's a 375 WOBA. He's allowed 10 home runs to right-handed hitters. I assume the Reds won't have much issue in getting to him today.
Yeah, I also played Reds. I think I forgot to mention J-Hap on the mound for the Twins, who has been one of the worst starters in baseball so far this season. 6.12 ERA, 5.20 expected. He's given up some homers. He's given up a lot of big innings. He's had a lot of big innings early on that have hurt him. The Reds' offense has gotten going over the last few weeks. It's been very good recently, and everything about J-Hap has warning bells going off. Even if you look at last season into this season, 16% strikeout so far this season for J-Hap. That's just not enough. Not when you're walking 7%, which is a good number in general, but not when you're only slightly above 16% strikeouts. You add that in the fact that he's given up 11% barrels. That's very high. 42% hard hit, which is about average. But when you basically coming into the zone and you're walking a lot of guys, you're not getting a lot of strikeouts, and you're giving up 10% barrels on balls in play or 11%, that's a lot, right? And you're going against a Reds offense that can hit him and hit him well. Guys like Votto, who are left-handed, aren't going to struggle against Hap. I mean, he just doesn't have the arm slot to affect lefties that much. And even the guys that do have that arm slot don't really affect Votto that much. The middle of this lineup is going to be very good against Hap. You would have to assume. And you mentioned Mahle's walk rate, 7% on the season. Still got the K's sitting right under 30%, which is where they were last year. But he's walking 3% less hitters, and someone again who's never been barreled up because his stuff is so nasty. And now he's throwing more strikes and still not getting barreled up, which is incredibly impressive so far this season. 6% and 32% hard hit rate.
I think we saw a spin rate drop significantly in his last couple starts, but it didn't even matter. He still struck out 12 Brewers and then struck out 6 Rockies the game before that. So
he might be one of those guys that end up like benefiting from not spiking curveballs all the time or something like that, right? Like in a weird way, like he just keeps throwing more and more strikes. Right. Like I mentioned, 2 or less walks over his last 7 starts. So he walked 4 against Pittsburgh, and since then 2 against San Francisco, 2 against Milwaukee, like you mentioned, but 12 Ks in that Milwaukee start. So he's turning it on here at the right time for Cincinnati, who's getting a little bit hot, and you have to think that they have a good chance to win that division. So I'm on Cincinnati. Dream is on Cincinnati. That is going to be my best bet as well. Dream, you played Houston minus 153. You played Houston team total over 5.5. And you played the Reds. Which one do you want to lock in? People are watching this saying, I want to bet on one game today. What's it going to be?
I guess it's the Houston team total, even though I'm horrible at picking the best bets, but we'll go with
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't like anything like substantially more usually than the other one. Just sort of everything's sort of a play. But I do think this Reds game is the best one for me. I also played over 9.5. in that Brewers Arizona game. So that's it for us. Again, Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you can check us out. We'll be here every day. Tomorrow will be golf with Paulie covering the PGA. We'll do the recap of the U.S. Open, cover the bets coming into this week. And then Wednesday to Friday, we'll get some baseball again with Austin, Dream, and myself as we go forward. So see you guys tomorrow.